What's up, guys? Chris Rivera here, aka the ECOM accountant, aka your favorite balding CPA. So today I'm here to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, and to be completely transparent, the reason why this video is so late is because I've been avoiding this like the plague. We are getting overwhelmed and bombarded with questions from both our clients and followers of ours about PPP, and we've always referred people to the SBA website or to banks, and what we're finding is that people aren't getting good answers to their questions. So what we're hoping is that if we put out some content to our ECOM following, people will get really good information and hopefully be able to get in on this really great opportunity. So starting from the top here, what is PPP? PPP is short for the Paycheck Protection Program, which is essentially a government program that really is helping small businesses continue to pay their employees. So the whole idea here is during times of economic hardship, companies are pressed with a decision of if your cash flows are tight, do you continue paying out your employees? What the government is hoping is if they help subsidize some of these compensation or payroll payments, that employers won't start to lay off their employees essentially. Now, the reason why this is such a great fit for e-commerce businesses is because you have a small business and many of you are following our S-Corp tax planning strategy, which means you do have some sort of payroll that's running, even if it's compensating yourself as an employee of your S-Corporation. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way here is this video is really intended for small businesses that are currently running payroll. And the reasoning is very simple. We have a relationship with a bank for which we've been pushing PPP loans through. And what they've told us is that they, as well as other banks, are prioritizing loans for businesses that have more sophisticated records of their business essentially. And what they're finding is that companies that do have traditional payroll through the form of W-2s and direct deposits and pay stubs and payroll providers tend to have more clean documentation, which makes the application process with the SBA much cleaner. So this video is really intended for those of you who are currently running payroll, but if you're not running payroll, I encourage you to still follow the steps, and hopefully you can work through the process with your SBA approved lender and potentially still get cash to help subsidize or help keep your business running. So we talked about what is the PPP. Let's talk about how much you can qualify for. Again, we're gonna focus on companies that are currently running payroll. So this is a very simple calculation. So you take what your total annual payroll is, and you take the larger of 2019 or 2020, right? So let's just say the larger of the 2 years is 2020, right? Let's say your gross annual payroll for 2020 is $120,000, and that's inclusive of you, and maybe you have 2 other employees, right? So the whole idea behind this program is you take what your total annual payroll is and you break that down into average monthly payroll. So if you have $120,000 in total payroll, that means you're spending about $10,000 per month for your W-2 employees. So what you do is you take that $10,000 per month and you multiply it times 2.5, that's $25,000. That is what you are able to push through this application process, and essentially the government will loan you that money. Now, what's super cool about this dollar amount is, let's say you get that $25,000, as long as you continue to spend that $25,000 on payroll, you do not have to pay that money back to the government. It is a forgivable loan, which essentially makes it free money. So you definitely want to make sure that you follow all of the guidelines to a T to make sure you're not doing anything incorrectly. But to keep things very simple, if you apply with your payroll, again, 2.5 months of your average monthly payroll, and you continue paying payroll out, then the entire loan essentially would become forgivable and you don't have to pay that money back. Jumping into where to apply now, we're about to jump into my laptop and go step by step through the application process with First Bank of the Lake. That's just a banking relationship we have, and we find that they're great with communication. The online application is seamless, they're responsive, it's really cool. But Full disclosure, you can go to the SBA website, sba.gov, and there's a section in that website where you can find SBA approved lenders, and maybe you can find a banking relationship that's close to home. You can walk into a bank branch and process your loan that way. We prefer to do things electronically and have had success with First Bank of the Lake, but to each their own, and you can make your own decision there. And before we jump into my laptop here, let's cover what you'll need. So again, this is centered around e-commerce entrepreneurs that are already running payroll on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis, whatever. But the documents you'll need, our first few are payroll filings, IRS payroll filings. That includes your forms 941 or 944, your W-3 and your W-2s. Now, all of these documents are available in your payroll service provider programs. Gusto, which is what we use for all of our clients, those documents should be readily available, and you should just be able to download them. You'll also need your most recently filed tax return. For most of you, that is your 2019 tax return. You'll need your driver's license, and make sure it's not expired, because we have had one application get bounced back for an expired driver's license. So make sure you're up to date with your driver's license. We have that you also need your articles of organization, articles of incorporation. It seems like every state has their own variation of what they call it, but basically that legal document that from when you first set up your business entity, you'll need that, because that'll be part of the application process. And last but not least, this is not required, but definitely something I encourage you to have, is usually payroll systems already know what you need for the PPP application. So there's usually a statement that you can generate. For example, we use Gusto, and we know this is available in Gusto, but it's essentially a payroll summary that helps you to determine how much you can apply for. So without further ado, let's jump into my computer and jump through the details and talk through how specifically you can apply for this loan. Okay, so welcome into my computer screen here. Hopefully my handsome face doesn't get in the way of the application too much. But essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk through the application process for First Bank of the Lake. You can see the URL here. You can Google the company here. If we go to First Bank of the Lake, right here, we navigate to the top one on the list here, and boom, there you have it, First Bank of the Lake. We use them because they have been, first of all, it's a banking relationship for us, but they've been super, super great with communication and very helpful in terms of processing these loans. We find that they're easy to get a hold of. But to cut to the chase here, let's just apply for PPP, proceed. Now, what you have to do is provide some sort of email address here. So I am going to create a dummy account here, info@theecommerceaccountants.com. Check this out. They will send you a link and a special PIN for you to access your application. So I will access that here on a separate screen, and it comes in 2 emails. So the first email will give you a link to this login screen where you enter in your PIN. It's kind of strange how they do this, but whatever, it works. So here is our unique PIN. Great. Okay, so here are the steps that we have to go through for the application. And there's not very much that's cut off here. Let me make my face a little bit smaller. Oh, okay, so really, really straightforward. Here are all the steps. Starting from the top here. Has the company already received a first draw PPP loan? For most of you, the answer is going to be no, but if you did receive first draw of the PPP loan, you will need information for the first time around that you received cash. Now, one quick catch, if this is your second time around, you do need, there's one extra step that you have to go through in order to qualify for more cash. You need to be able to prove that you, year over year, had less revenues if you look at each quarter individually. So you just pick any quarter. If you qualify under any quarter, this will work for you. But essentially, you have to compare Q1 2020 to Q1 2019, Q2 2020 to Q2 2019, you know, so on and so forth. If you can prove that any one of those quarters you earned less money, then you do qualify for this loan. But for most of you, you don't have to worry about that because this is going to be a first draw. So let's move forward from here. Legal name of the business, let's call this ABC Company LLC. DBA or trade name, you don't have to put that. Here for the business industry classification, we have been using I'll show you the code that they have been accepting for us. You search for electronic shopping and mail order houses. This is the code. So if you want to jot this down somewhere, it's 454110. Upload your most recently filed business tax return. For those of you who have S Corps, that's the business tax return form 1120S. If you don't have that, include your form 1040, which has your business income on it. But whatever tax return you include, make sure it has your business income included. So that will be that. Business form of organization. This is pretty self-explanatory. Again, S Corps are what we strongly recommend that you structure for tax planning purposes. Some of you may have LLCs, single member. So for this application, we'll go with S Corp. What type of documents are required to prove business formation? Here is where we recommend that you upload your articles of incorporation or organization, basically the legal documents that you were provided with when you set up your business entity originally. So that would be important. Also, what we find is helpful is if you include the original IRS form that you get that has your EIN number on it. Not required, but we find that it makes the process go smoother. Again, the more documentation you can provide, the smoother this process gets. So definitely highly recommend including both of those here. State of organization, we're gonna put Wyoming. That's where my business entity is based out of. Date business is established. This should match your articles of organization or incorporation. So let's just say your business entity was created on September 15th, 2018. Let's just say that's when your business entity was set up. This should match the document that you're uploading here for your articles of organization or incorporation. Business entity address. This is pretty straightforward. Does this company operate in more than one physical location? For most of you, this answer is going to be no. Your business operates from behind your computer screen. So even if you're a digital nomad, just to avoid confusion, my recommendation would be saying no here. Your tax ID, EIN, or social security number, pretty straightforward. This is what's included on your tax return for your business entity. And for your business phone number, it's fine for you to just put your cell phone number. Again, this audience is really centered around e-commerce entrepreneurs, you digital nomads out there that are running your operation from behind a computer screen. I just want to make sure the target audience is very, very clear here. None of these should apply to you. Pretty straightforward here. This application process is really applicable to Americans. So none of these situations should apply to you here. If they do, then you don't qualify for this loan. So I want to make sure that's very, very clear. So read through these items here. Okay, company ownership information. Is the applicant owned by one or more businesses? Usually the answer is no. Usually what we see is our clients have one person or two people, whatever, own a business entity. So for you, that answer would be no. If it is owned by another business entity, you would select business here. But let's keep this pretty straightforward. You are a U.S. citizen. Just your personal information here. 100% owned by you. If you have multiple owners, you'll have to add them in at the bottom here. But the rest of this is straightforward. Social security number, date of birth, address. You receive or will you apply for another PPP loan in a company that you have 20% or greater ownership stake in? Generally speaking, we see our clients only have one business entity, but there are a few that do have several. So if the answer is yes, you'll want to make sure that you provide the information that they're asking for, where you're applying, etc., how much you're applying for. But for most people, most of the people that are watching this video, it'll just be for one entity and you can select no there. Here, I recommended that you have your license ready to go. You would upload your license here and include the documentation for your license. I'm from New York originally, so I have a New York ID number and license expiration date. Again, I had a client get their application rejected because they had an expired license. So make sure you're up to speed with your, you're up to date with your license. So here, please identify the purpose of the loan. Just to keep things simple, we're just focusing on payroll. There are other types of expenses that do qualify for this PPP lending program, but generally speaking, when we looked into it, the most applicable across the board for our clients was payroll. So just focus on payroll and you should have no issues with forgiveness for your loan. So will you be using 2019 or 2020 as your base period? Use whichever one is larger, at least for our clients, because we're kind of new in this space. 2020 is the larger year. Pick whichever year has more payroll. So which year has more employees that you're paying larger dollar amounts to. So for most of our clients, it's 2020. It's okay if it's 0 in 2019. Just make sure that you select whichever year is bigger. Are you a seasonal employer? The answer is no, at least for the e-commerce entrepreneurs that we've been working with. It seems like the answer is no. Here, do you have a CARES Act specific report from your payroll provider? If you are using Gusto, select yes, and it makes things simpler. I'm sure QuickBooks has a similar document, but basically you go to Gusto and you generate a report that you can upload here. So basically it's a report that documents how much payroll you've spent throughout the course of the year. So here, total amount from CARES Act report. This is the total annual payroll that you have. So in our example that we said before we jumped into my computer, we had $120,000 in total payroll cost. This should reconcile directly to your payroll report from your payroll supplier, so our payroll provider. So Gusto, QuickBooks, etc. So here is where you upload the document, right, from your payroll provider. Here, average number of employees during specified payroll period. This also would be included in your payroll document, but this is simply over the course of the year, on average, how many employees did you have? So if you had, 4 employees on average throughout the year, you'd plug in 4 here, so we'll put that down. Here is where you want your payroll documentation. So this form 940 is one of the payroll documents that your payroll service provider is probably filing on your behalf. So again, if you look back at the documents that you need to have in order to apply, this is where you upload that document. And on this step, this is where I'd recommend that you also upload your forms 941, 944, W3, and W2s. Again, the more ammunition you have, the better. The more you give them, the less questions that they'll have, and they'll push your loan right on through. Please use the text box below to further explain any required calculations. So for here, we've been putting not applicable, or if you want to prevent future confusion, we put LLC entity elected to have S corp tax treatment. So we just put that in there for what it's worth. I don't know if that really. One thing that you can put in here too, this is actually new development as of today. I've been in touch with the First Bank. We have a rep that works at First Bank of the Lake. The question he's been asking is, why is this your first time draw? Why didn't you apply the first time around? And what we've been putting was in the first time we did not apply for the first round of funding because we were either not aware of the program or did not have sufficient payroll. And this was a perfectly good answer when we ran this by. So this is something you definitely want to make sure you put in if you're a first-time applicant. So yeah, let's just continue going forward. Cool. So these are all questions that you'll have to go through. This basically talks about if you've gotten in trouble in the past, so definitely want to make sure you read through these questions and be honest. Now, questions you want to be careful of, because these will rule you out. Is the United States the principal place of residence for all employees? The answer should be yes. I would assume most of you are not franchises. And then choose one of the following. For most of you, this will be your the button that you click. Okay, so demographic information. So this is just talking about the person who's applying for the loan here. So this would be your information, your position with the company. I'll just fill out my information here. I'm a non-veteran. I'm a male. This is kind of a funny question. I'm not really white, but given the options here, I guess I would be considered white. I don't know. I guess I'm more white than black. I don't know. And then ethnicity, I am Hispanic or Latino. I don't know what difference that'll make with the application, but that's pretty much it. We're getting missing information here because I didn't complete all the steps. Obviously, you didn't see me upload any documents, but basically the most important part of this application is you will want to put in your bank account information, because if you are approved, your lender will send you the money immediately. So put your bank name, name of the account, routing and account number, and then once you go through that, oh, bummer. That is pretty much it. So once you submit this loan application, what's gonna happen is you are going to be receiving questions. So it's inevitable. Every single application that we've seen submitted, the loan officers will send you an email asking some sort of questions. So the quicker you are to respond, the faster you should be able to take advantage of this program and get cash. So definitely you should be applying for this as soon as possible. Make sure you have the documents that I mentioned ahead of time so that you can go through this once and cleanly. But if you have all these documents ready to go, ready to upload, and you sit down and do the application, you saw how quick it was for us to go through this together. You should be able to take advantage of this program. Okay, so we are going to go through Gusto really quickly. As I mentioned in the last section, there are some payroll reports that you need in order to submit a really, really good application. So here, as you can see, we're in the Ecommerce Accountant's Gusto account. As you can see, I got some house cleaning items I gotta clean up here. So definitely excuse that, but to go through the list, here we need the forms either 941 or 944, the form W3 and the form W2, and then a payroll summary. So the first thing is the payroll summary. You can just go to reports, and then there is a report called the Payroll Protection Program application. So here we will include, you should run this for both years, see whichever one's larger. Let's run for 2020 for us, and pardon my privacy, but we are going to redact the information in the report. But let's just do this. So we do this for December or January through December 2020. Have you previously received a PPP loan? No. So generate the document, and this is where the information will be redacted. But this is the document you want to download for purposes of the loan. But basically on the second page here, total actual payroll costs. This is the number that you are going to want to use in your application. So you use this number, and then the current jobs, this is the number that you'll want to include as the average number of employees. So definitely want to make sure that you generate this report, and it makes the application process easier when you apply. So going back to the Gusto screen, that is the payroll summary report. Now the other documents are actually tax filings that Gusto handles on your behalf. So if you go to company, form 940 is here. So you just click this view, you download the report right there. Form 941, you can, me personally, when I applied, I downloaded all of these. This is a quarterly filing, so download all of these and import it into your application. And then this W2, this will include the W2s and the W3s. So if you download it, it's actually a batch of files. It's a zip drive that downloads. You'll want to include both the W3 and the W2s with your application. So I just wanted to show you with Gusto, at least, which is what we use for our clients, what specifically or where specifically to get these reports. And that's pretty much all that we've got for you. Thanks so much for watching our video. Be sure to like, subscribe if you find our content very engaging and helpful. We want to provide as much content as we can, but we need an engaged audience to continue to feel motivated to do so. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. You can find us at Ecom Accountants. That is the firm Instagram page, or Ecom Accountant is my personal Instagram page. So just shoot us a DM on either one of those pages and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And best of luck in your PPP application process, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye.